Please welcome Interim President Richard L. McCormick.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you are all enjoying this weekend's homecoming festivities, and we hope you will be here tomorrow for tomorrow's exciting events, including the football game and the Wolfstock Village barbecue. This evening, we celebrate Stony Brook's unstoppable momentum. Since starting in my role in August, I have talked a lot about Stony Brook's amazing trajectory, and I have witnessed it in action. Since 1957, Stony Brook has been resetting the standard for what it means to be a world-class institution of higher education. We continue to reach new heights. Last year, in acknowledgement of our research and educational excellence, Jim and Marilyn Simons and the Simons Foundation pledged a historic $500 million gift, the largest ever unrestricted endowment to a United States higher education institution. And we were selected as the anchor institution for the New York Climate Exchange on Governor's Island, committed to addressing and providing solutions to the global climate crisis. Stony Brook's remarkable, dare I say, unstoppable momentum is evident across our academic and medical enterprises. I believe Stony Brook exemplifies dramatically all the most important characteristics in modern American higher education. First, we have a growing and highly diverse student body, many who are the first in their families to attend college. Our students graduate, and we are among the top universities in propelling their opportunity and economic mobility. Second, Stony Brook boasts a large and growing research enterprise fueled by more than $300 million annually in funding, most of it from the federal government. As a result, our university is a leader in prolonging healthy lives, addressing the global challenge of climate change, responsibly advancing artificial intelligence, and many more fields of knowledge upon which humankind depends. Third, our graduates and research achievements are contributing mightily to the economy and society of Long Island, New York, the nation, and the world. Stony Brook University is in so many ways truly unstoppable. And celebrating this momentum is exactly why we are here this evening. Our deans, who are graciously hosting tonight's program and the reception that follows, represent our 12 schools and colleges. The way they join together this evening illustrates how they partner every day. Stony Brook's exceptional interdisciplinary spirit and its ethos of collaboration. In a few moments, you will hear from Stacy Gropek, Dean of our School of Health Professions, and David Roble, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. They will introduce this evening's speakers, extraordinary representatives of the impact of our faculty, students, and donors are having on our campus, in our communities, and around the nation. As I observed in my State of the University address a few weeks ago, society's greatest challenges cannot be met by the sum of disconnected parts of our society, including our universities. In fact, it is the responsibility of a flagship institution like ours to ensure that researchers combine their strengths across the lines of disciplines and departments. Here at Stony Brook, we have outstanding examples of teaching and research across the disciplines. One example is our Department of Biomedical Engineering. It is jointly run by the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences and the School of Medicine. Its core faculty are roughly split between the two. It includes collaborative researchers from Brookhaven National Laboratory and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. It offers experiential learning and research opportunities, including through the Center for Biotechnology, the Institute for Engineering-Driven Medicine, and the Center for Healthy Aging. And there's our Collaborative for the Earth, which integrates our research and teaching around climate and the environment into a single enterprise. This week, 40 students and 20 faculty spent a full day at a wind farm on Block Island. The participants included an artist studying the acoustics of wind energy, mechanical engineers working on blade design, marine biologists, a pediatric pulmonologist concerned with air quality, and a political science studying climate negotiations. There are almost no limits to what can happen when researchers from multiple disciplines explore new directions together. This year, we will be earnestly exploring ways to deepen both research and teaching that bring together our medical and health science programs on the East Campus with the rest of our academic programs here on the West Campus. To chart the way toward achieving that purpose, I have recently appointed a faculty task force on such cooperation. The task force will ask how we can combine our strengths in the health sciences with our strengths across campus. Doing so will help us continue on our trajectory of becoming a truly world-class institution. By next spring, I expect the task force will offer compelling recommendations for seizing opportunities in research and teaching that embrace our health sciences and the rest of the university. But luckily, we don't have to wait until next spring to see this excellence in action. Indeed, tonight, we'll hear from just a small sample of Stony Brook's extraordinary contributors across a variety of disciplines. To help us get started, please join me in welcoming Dean Stacy Gropak and Dean David Roble to the stage. Stacy and David.
Thank you, President McCormick, and welcome all of you to this exciting and important evening for Stony Brook. On behalf of all of the deans at Stony Brook, thank you for joining us for this engaging program, which will be followed by a reception in the lobby. Stony Brook's momentum is indeed unstoppable. President McCormick mentioned a key ingredient to this momentum is our interprofessional approach to identifying problems and creating solutions. Integrating health sciences with the liberal arts allows us to serve our community more holistically, fostering collaboration for the benefit of humanity. As Dean of the School of Health Professions, I know we have a responsibility to educate our students with what we call interprofessional skills. Healthcare providers must cultivate a deep understanding of all aspects that contribute to the efficient patient care centered approach. This includes not only clinical expertise, but also the ability to recognize the unique social, emotional, cultural, and economic factors influencing each patient's well-being. To deliver optimal care, providers must adopt a collaborative approach, working across disciplines, engaging with families, and incorporating the patient's preferences and goals into patient care plans. Effective communication, empathy, and cultural sensitivity are essential for building trust and fostering meaningful patient-provider relationships. Additionally, leveraging technology, streamlining workflows, and maintaining awareness of healthcare policies and systems ensures care delivery is not only compassionate, but also timely, coordinated, and efficient. By embracing this comprehensive approach, healthcare providers can meet the diverse needs of patients while improving outcomes, satisfaction, and overall health equity. As we like to say, there are no silos, especially when it comes to healthcare. Our unstoppable momentum also comes from the fact that we are committed to social mobility. We educate and graduate students ready for the workforce and prepared to serve our communities. So, on behalf of all the deans, I want to thank each of you who supports this broad set of efforts. Whether you give to support scholarships or invest in our colleges, schools, or programs, you are the fuel that drives our momentum. We cannot do this without you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're an exceptional public research university, and as such, we have a special responsibility. It's not enough for us to just acquire and disseminate existing knowledge. It's our responsibility to create new knowledge and understanding of the physical world and the human condition through our research and creative activity, and to then put that new knowledge and understanding to work to positively impact our communities, to make them stronger. When the author John Steinbeck accepted the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1962, he talked about the ancient commission of the writer to expose our many grievous faults and failures, to dredge up to the light our dark and dangerous dreams for the purpose of improvement, and to declare and celebrate our proven capacity for greatness of heart and spirit. for gallantry in defeat, for courage, compassion, and love. For Steinbeck, the writer was tasked with making a more just world, and any writer without that dedication, he said, has no membership in literature and was not a writer at all. In higher education, we can translate this call to action into the role of research and creativity in improving the human condition. This is our ancient and our ever more important commission. In a few moments, you'll hear from 4 of our outstanding faculty about how we're doing this transformative work through our research and creative activity at Stony Brook. Tom Manuel will talk about the relevance of jazz in the 21st century and how we're connecting to our community through the Jazz Loft. Andrew Schwartz will share how we're creating artificial intelligence that's more human-centered to develop tools to better assess mental health and thus support healthcare. Josephine Connolly-Schunan studies how changes in our food environment are contributing to poor health outcomes and how we can help people reconnect to better nutrition options. Kevin Reed will share how Stony Brook is becoming an international leader in climate solutions, education, research, and scholarship. As Stacy mentioned, part of the power of higher education is the ability to democratize knowledge and foster social mobility. Our 5th presentation will feature an extraordinary alumni couple, Meryl and Andy Silver, and the impact of their investments in scholarship support programs at Stony Brook. They'll be joined by scholarship recipient and current Stony Brook student, Alicia Hassan. So let's get started. Please welcome our first speaker, Tom Manuel.
Good evening. If jazz were here tonight, if jazz were a person, it would be the person you'd want to have as a best friend. Jazz would be the person your mom or dad would have wanted you to date. Jazz would be that person that you would go to when you're looking for a confidant. Jazz embodies patience, honesty, playfulness, emotion, courage, and will. Jazz is genuine, and it incorporates concentration, risk, and it shows us the power of limits. Jazz teaches us trust and dedication, and jazz is unquestionably tolerant, collaborative, accepting, and equitable. Jazz knows how to listen, which at times means we need to be silent. And put into action, jazz is democratic and personifies authentic democracy. The reason why jazz is important is because of those characteristics that are so emblematic of jazz. Now let's be clear for a moment about what jazz is not. It is not technique or which notes we play. Rather, it's what we do with those notes. And what makes jazz communicate is intention and emotion. Intention is when we take a stand that the music will have meaning. Emotion is when we're willing to open up and share how we really feel. You see, emotions are universal. They connect us all. They transcend race, they transcend color, creed, and so much more. And music that voices an emotion sincerely will always communicate powerfully. In jazz, one important ingredient which absolutely must be present in order for jazz to be jazz is improvisation, the act of spontaneously composing in the moment like I did coming out this evening. It's in that act of opening up and communicating our emotions honestly and genuinely and with intention that we're exercising our individual rights and freedoms. And when we do this together, we have a hip word for it. We say, man, that's swinging. And that means we're responsible to nurture the common good of everyone in fine balance. This music called jazz was born out of the blues. And when we play the blues, it means that no matter how bad things get, we remain optimistic while still mindful of problems. At Stony Brook, we're teaching jazz because we believe in equipping our students with the tools and skills and abilities to find their own voice. Jazz has always been and continues to be about finding your own voice. One of my mentors, a drummer named Percy Bryce, recalled to me how one of the most important gigs he did in his career was touring Europe with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King had musicians with him because he felt that when his words could not communicate what he was trying to say, the music always would. In our jazz program, we're not just teaching students how to be better musicians, we're inspiring them to dream big, to tackle big problems, to use their gift and their voice to get into good trouble, and to use music to triumph, to be a light in the darkness. Each year at Stony Brook, our students and community at large get to experience a large-scale project presented at the Wang Center for the Arts. In the past, we've presented Oliver Nelson's Kennedy Dream, along with world premiere compositions by our jazz faculty and internationally recognized artists in the field. Our community is home to the Jazz Loft, one of only 5 jazz museums in the entire United States of America, whose mission to advocate for the American-born art form of jazz has at the core of its mission points jazz preservation, jazz education, and jazz performance. Our students have access to the greatest classroom for jazz one could ever imagine, and they get to perform and study amidst 7,000 square feet of inspiration, surrounded by one-of-a-kind collections and exhibits celebrating the likes of Charlie Parker, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, Louis Jordan, Keely Smith, and others. The great trumpeter Wynton Marsalis once said that the question that confronts us in jazz and confronts us individually, the question that confronts us in academia and as a nation is, do we want to find a better way? And if we answer affirmative, we'll grow, we will improve, and we'll make it through the challenges that we face. But if we choose no, that we want to be our worst selves, then we're going to struggle. The momentum of our work in the jazz department, our collaborations at Stony Brook University and with the Jazz Loft and our community at large is indeed inspiring and exciting. My vision for our strong but small jazz department is to continue to grow. I see our graduate students being jazz ambassadors each semester to our SUNY Korea and SUNY Turkana Basin Institute in Africa. I envision our musicians working with our leading scholars, research students, and scientists in the fields of music therapy, memory loss, Alzheimer's, and dementia. I see us embracing opportunities for expansion on the East End and making jazz and the arts more accessible to all people in our Long Island community. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Please welcome Andrew Schwartz.
Complete this sentence. Who thought people? What about AI? Throughout history, language was predominantly written by people. Increasingly, it's now written by AI. Language-based artificial intelligence, or AI, seems to be everywhere. Nearly all have been exposed to it on a regular basis, on your phone, using web search, getting product recommendations, customer service calls, and so on. And some of you may even already be working with it. Perhaps you've heard of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is, at its core, what's called a large language model, or LLM. Before ChatGPT, before it showed us the power of LLMs to the larger world, language models themselves had upended my field of artificial intelligence language analysis. Each language technology before that had a different underlying model. For example, there were separate models and methods for automatically translating languages, running oral chatbots, annotating positive or negative content, and doing web search. Large language models brought about a single system for generally understanding language. With such a model, only minor changes were necessary to perform different tasks. At the simplest level, LLMs are just auto-completion machines, what you did right at the beginning of this talk. Given a sequence of words, they predict the next word. That's what this equation here means. Given the previous words, 1 minus I minus 1, what is the probability of word I? I promise, this is the only equation we will study today. But it's a very important equation because it underlies these models. They don't just choose a word, they seek to model the probability of all the words that could occur next. We see here humans as most likely, then people, and luckily AI is still further down. It's not as likely. But calling them auto-completion machines or just pattern matching is a little bit of an oversimplification. In reality, the latest LLMs are modeling for millions of possible next words, and then doing this next million word modeling over and over again for different documents, for every single word they observe across trillions of documents. They run over examples of words within documents or word sequences like we see here. Doing language modeling is enormously complex. It requires solving linguistic and world knowledge problems and issues people hadn't been able to do working on them for decades. The underlying architecture to do it well actually really only came about in 2017. Still, the world to these models is just sequences of words. This means they don't experience language like you and I. They don't hear it or see it or understand it's coming from a particular person like we did from before we even really understood the words. We understand we were getting something from somebody. It's more like they experience language like reading a book, or really a ton of books made up of sequences that were derived from the web, more than anyone could read in hundreds of lifetimes. But as much book knowledge as they have, fundamentally, all the way down to that probability function that's at the core of these language models, the one important thing they don't know is that language is written by, language comes from people. People have different beliefs and backgrounds and styles and vocabularies and preferences, knowledge, personalities. That all influences their language. In this case, multiple of these sequences were written by the same person. This idea of injecting people into models may sound a bit fluffy, but there's a statistical fallacy actually underlying how we do these language models. It's called the ecological fallacy. It's where you model chunks of data as if they are not related, when in reality, in true reality, they actually are related. But there's ways to address this. Our work focuses on that and making LLMs more human-centered. As a central example, we are redesigning this fundamental language modeling task to include the person behind the language model, shown here as you. This models the dependence between language from the same person and addresses the ecological fallacy. More generally, it means understanding language in its human context. As one of my previous PhD students, Veronica, put it, when she says, "that's sick," she typically meant something very different than when her grandmother says, "that's sick." Another PhD student currently here, Nikita Soni and Niranjan Balasubramanian, another AI faculty, and I have been working on a model that we've called HEART that tries to implement this idea of human language modeling. We took the same language model behind ChatGPT, at least the latest version that was made public, GPT-2. We altered it to do this human language modeling task. This is now using language modeling. Basically, we are adding you, a person, to the model, represented here. You don't need to understand too much of the details here, but just that this state representing you moves along. It removes the ecological fallacy and allows a model to understand differences in people behind the language. Now, we tested on language modeling task itself, comparing it to a version of GPT-2 that has seen the same data but doesn't have the HEART architecture. That's what this is showing here. And we're looking at a measure of what's called perplexity, which measures how confused is the model when it sees language, basically. And we find that this updated GPT-2 that we've shown a lot more human language, well, it's better than the original GPT-2 at that. But when we put HEART into this model, the final line here, we get almost half the amount of confusion. It's more accurate because of this extra human context. On top of that, when we apply it to typical AI tasks like document classification, we've also been able to see improvements. Now, this is an example of how taking ideas from psychology and human sciences and applying them in AI is helping us to improve the fundamentals of AI. But this, in turn, is motivated by making AI better at working for people and their health. As an example, let's take a look at when we applied AI-based measurements in collaboration with the Stony Brook World Trade Center Health and Wellness Program. We found that AI-based assessments of anxiety not only predicted patients' current conditions fairly well, they were able to predict improved or worsening, whether they were on a trajectory of improved or worsening conditions 2 years into the future. Similarly, working with researchers from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, we looked at an AI-based assessment during intake into an addiction treatment program. We found that language-based assessments of dropout risk were able to identify who was most likely to drop out all the way at 90 days after intake. You can see that here with the blue line being those predicted least likely to drop out, about 90% of them stayed in, and those seen as most likely, and the red line, and less than 20% stayed in. This can help with the intake process and for clinical applications. So the bottom line here is that we are integrating a human context into AI that can simultaneously improve AI itself, as well as our ability to use AI to support healthcare beyond what is possible today. Thanks to many collaborators, some of them here, the students that worked on this, collaborators from psychology and medicine, and thank you all for your interest.
Please welcome Josephine Connolly-Scoden.
Consider this. As humans, we have evolved for over hundreds of thousands of years with the plants, animals, and microbes in our environment. Many symbiotic relationships developed. For example, we provide microbes in our gut with an easily accessible food supply, and they make nutrients that we need, such as vitamin K, folate, and other B vitamins. It gets more interesting when we consider what happens when we eat plant foods. We eat antioxidants made by the plants for their own protection from the sun. The antioxidants are then processed by microbes in our gut to make these nutrients easier for us to absorb and therefore benefit from their protection against oxidation and inflammation in our bodies. Now consider that over the last 100 years, our genome, which drives all aspects of our metabolism, has not changed much at all. But the composition of our food supply has changed dramatically over this time, thereby breaking down the co-evolutionary process, so much so that our food supply is now out of sync with our bodies and the microbes we carry. This contributes to the dysregulation of so many processes, which then contributes to organ dysfunction and health problems experienced by so many people, such as diabetes, autoimmune conditions, Alzheimer's disease, and cancer. This dysregulation plays out in many areas, but especially along the GI tract, which you can imagine as a tube that runs through our bodies. If you were to spread out the absorptive surface of this tube, it would be about the size of a tennis court, and there would be a few pounds of bacteria living there, hundreds and hundreds of different species, interacting with each other and our cells, including immune cells and neurons, creating an extremely complex environment. Just think of the potential impact of the hundreds of synthetic ingredients added to foods Americans eat every day. Our GI tracts are comprised of a single layer of rather vulnerable cells arranged in a line and pulled together with proteins, kind of like shoelaces, to create tight junctions and a barrier between the outside world. The quality of our diets impacts this barrier, specifically the degree of permeability, as well as the ratio of pathogenic to health-promoting microbe populations. The biggest part of our immune system, the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, lines this tube, the interface with the outside world, surveilling the border. Unhealthy diets increase permeability of the gut lining, allowing stuff in our GI tracts, this not-so-sterile environment, to cross and repeatedly trigger our immune systems. The immune response includes creating oxidative stress and inflammation, contributing to the progression of chronic illnesses noted earlier, such as diabetes, autoimmune conditions, Alzheimer's disease, and cancers. Changes in our food supply are driven by the food industry that has purposefully engineered confusion in the food marketplace. For example, we've been led to believe that foods like protein smoothies made with ingredients such as organic pea protein, cups of greens, and coconut milk are super healthy. But are they? Think of the torture this beautiful pea had to endure to become this pile of pea protein isolate. Coconut milk is the most highly saturated fat in our food supply, and concentrated greens provide a problematic load of oxalates. So here's the challenge. How do we get back in sync with our food and our microbes? Our work at the Nutrition Division is to help our patients and communities do just this by shifting their eating styles back to a plant-based whole food style of eating, healing their guts, rebuilding a health-promoting microbiome, and optimizing immune function. We do this at multiple levels. We focus on influencing policy at the macro level, including policies about stocking vending machines in Suffolk County buildings and wellness policies at school districts. We also have several initiatives here at Stony Brook. On our Stony Brook Heights rooftop farm, we grow foods for our patients as a symbol of the importance of whole plant foods. Some of this produce is distributed through our Stony Brook Medicine Food Pharmacy, through which we provide food insecure patients healthy foods upon discharge to support their healing and recovery. We're also focused on providing nutrition therapy and education, both at the community and individual level, through programs like our virtual Target Fitness program and our Kids Farm to Table cooking classes. Through our graduate level and clinical nutrition academic programs, we are training the next generation of registered dietitians prepared to further advance this work to empower people to do three things: achieve optimal health, prevent and reverse chronic conditions, and age slower. And who doesn't want that? Our research on nutrition strategies to improve gut health and immune function so as to decrease the risk for or progression of GI inflammatory conditions or cancer is continuing. We've conducted 2 clinical trials employing precise controlled feeding methods by improvising and creating a pop-up metabolic kitchen, the type of facility needed to implement such studies, by renting space in a commercial facility. Our initial results indicate that nutrition strategies I use in practice do positively impact the gut health and the metabolome, the array of metabolites made by the gut microbiome. Our goal is to establish a nutrition research and education facility with a metabolic kitchen so we can scale these efforts, continue our research, and expand our innovative patient care. Thank you.
Please welcome Kevin Reed.
Our climate is changing. We've experienced over 2-degree Fahrenheit warming over the last 100+ years. This has impacted our livelihoods, it's impacted our food systems, and it's impacted how we get around. And most importantly, it's actually started to impact our weather. If you just go back in the last month, we've experienced 2 devastating hurricanes right here in the United States, Hurricanes Milton and Hurricane Helene in the southeast. These storms occurred so close to each other that while one storm was bearing down, the coastline and the communities didn't have time to get the debris out of their sidewalks before the next storm came. If you're in this region, you don't have to go back very far. Just 12 years ago, almost to the day, Hurricane Sandy wreaked havoc on our region, right? And 12 years later, we are still building back our subways, our transportation, and our coastline to deal with this event that happened 12 years ago. And right here in Stony Brook, you only have to go back 2 months, right? In August, we received over 9 inches of rainfall over a short period of time. Not only did this damage our campus, it damaged our communities, and it's actually changed our landscape forever. We're seeing these type of events all across the country. In 2023, we had a record number of billion-dollar disasters and climate disasters in the United States. And they've ranged everywhere from extreme droughts and wildfires to the extreme flooding and storms that we've experienced right here in New York. And it's really through these changes in extreme weather is the primary way in which society will experience climate change. And human-induced climate change has already started to increase the number and the strength of these events in the United States and around the world. So what are we doing about it? Here at Stony Brook, we're using unique theory and models to try to understand the intensity and what controls the intensity and the size of the storms that we're seeing. We're using really idealized approaches to climate modeling to understand the basics of circulations and their impacts on the distribution and regional occurrence of these events, so that we can then better connect, right, those impacts in the real world while storms are happening. Using the support of generous donors right here at Stony Brook, we've actually been able to take this information, and while Hurricane Florence was bearing down on the Carolinas in 2018, we were able to investigate the actual impact of climate change on that storm so it could be communicated in real time while the event was in the news. And it's not just those type of work that have an impact on the public. Every phase of research I showed here, from theory to idealized modeling to the impactful science, has been covered in the national and international media. Because it's imperative that as society we understand how these storms are changing and how to better prepare for them. But it's not just the science that's important. It's connecting that science to the decision makers. At Stony Brook, we are also working on going from that theoretical to action, right? So how do we start to connect, to co-develop metrics, to co-develop scientific questions with decision makers so that when we have data that's ready, it can be applied and inform decisions both here in New York around our water systems, our energy systems, and our coastlines. So where do we go from here? At Stony Brook, we feel it is a responsibility to remain leaders in this space. And we are uniquely positioned to help develop solutions not only for Long Island, but for New York City. Over the last few years, I've been extremely fortunate to be the academic lead at Stony Brook for our institution's bid to build a Climate Solutions Center in New York. And you might have heard that we've been successful at that as the anchor institution of the New York Climate Exchange. There we're focused on developing solutions not only for New York City and beyond, through co-developing of working with industry, working with other academic institutions and community groups to better inform our decision-making in the city. But the New York Climate Exchange is just one of those things. Faculty across the university, whether it's in the medical school or the arts or engineering or down on Southampton's campus, we are focused on developing solutions cross-cutting across the university that are impactful and integrated so that our students are armed with all the stuff they need to be the climate change solution enablers in the future. Thank you.
Please welcome Meryl and Andy Silver and Alicia Hassan.
Like many great stories, ours is a love story. It's a love story that began at Stony Brook on a tennis court. Not a pickleball court, mind you, but a proper tennis court behind Langmuir College in H-Quad. And look, we've hardly changed at all. And believe it or not, we're still playing tennis together. We are both from working class families and were the first generation to attend college full-time. We were able to do that thanks to the financial aid we each received from the New York State Regents Scholarship. It reduced our financial burdens, which are similar to the burdens facing so many students today. Even so, with those scholarships, we both worked part-time on campus. We appreciated all the forms of support that enabled us to get a college education.
After graduation in 1975, we started to give back to Stony Brook through the annual fundraising program. Fast forward to 2015, when we realized we were in a position to do more. That is how the Andrew and Meryl Silver Scholarship began. It started by providing 4-year financial assistance to one incoming student each year from the Bronx High School of Science, my alma mater. Our program selects high school students who who demonstrate both high academic achievement and a commitment to social action and/or social service. In addition, our scholarship requires continued high academic achievement and commitment to service during each semester at Stony Brook. From the beginning, we saw the positive impact of our investment. As a result, we gradually expanded the program to support 4 students each year, 2 from James Madison High School in Brooklyn, Merrill's alma mater, and 2 from the Bronx High School of Science. Today, we are pleased to say that we have been able to invest in the future of 26 Silver Scholars.
In many ways, we see ourselves in these students. Many of the scholars are the first in their families to attend college. Each student is full of potential. We tried to build personal connections with the scholars through occasional emails and an annual restaurant dinner in the fall. During the pandemic, we decided to meet on Zoom. As a result, alumni from around the country were able to join us. We are happy to report that last night, as a matter of fact, we were back to our traditional in-person dinner. It was held on campus because of the large size of our group. It included 3 alum coming back, and we also received 2 beautiful letters with regret that the alums couldn't come back and join us. Andy and I believe passionately in the power of education to achieve social mobility. By reducing the financial challenges of a college education, we hope that we are enabling students to pursue and achieve their dreams. But don't take our word for it. Instead, we are excited to introduce you to one of our Silver Scholars, Alicia Hassan. Alicia.
Thank you, Meryl and Andy. When you receive a scholarship, it's not just the financial part that matters. Receiving a scholarship says to you, I believe in you. Your investment and your belief in me gave me the chance to attend Stony Brook as a first-generation student from James Madison High School. Community service has always been important to me, from family-run charity events during childhood summers in Bangladesh to being vice president of the Key Club in high school. Here at Stony Brook, I continue to serve my student community. I volunteer with the admissions department and provide crucial insight into the college experience to prospective students. High school also sparked my interest in studying psychology. Stemming from both personal experiences and observing COVID-19's impacts on society, mental health has truly become an unignorable aspect of our lives. When I learned about the Silver Scholarship, I was so excited by the opportunity to join 2 of my passions together. My time at Stony Brook has been so rewarding. I'm graduating early this December with a degree in psychology and experiences from 3 different research labs on campus. After graduation, I'm planning on pursuing my PhD in clinical psychology. And because I've been so inspired by the Silver's commitment to service, my goal in the future is to one day start my own scholarship program. I want to pay it forward just as Meryl and Andy have done. Meryl, Andy, on behalf of all my fellow Silver Scholars, thank you so much for believing in us and investing in our futures. For me and my family, your contributions have been priceless.
Alicia, we are so proud of your achievements. This is exactly why we continue to invest in the unstoppable momentum of our students' success.
Because of the success of the Silver Scholarship, we recently set up an endowment to fund the program in perpetuity and to take advantage of matching grants from the state and a private donor. We also started another program. It helps students who receive the New York State Excelsior Scholarship to remain in that program and graduate in 4 years. Between the original Silver Scholarship and the newer program, named the Flexcelsior Scholarship, we've been able to help more than 50 students.
If Stony Brook has been as good to you as it has been to us, we invite you to consider investing in the future generations of our and your university students.
Tonight, we ask you to think about your own passions, then connect with the people at Stony Brook to begin a conversation. That's what we did, and it has been one of our best investments for the future. Thank you.
Please welcome Dean Bruckenthal and Dean Gurnani.
What an extraordinary set of presentations. Can you join me in giving our presenters one more round of applause? I hope that you were all as impressed as I was with how we don't just do research for research's sake here at Stony Brook. Instead, we are committed to ensuring that our work has impact on the very real issues that people are facing. Tonight, we saw evidence of Stony Brook's unstoppable momentum. We're fighting climate change, improving healthcare, or finding creative approaches to real-world challenges, our commitment to improving lifespans across our institutions. As Dean of the School of Nursing, I'm especially committed to preparing the nurses of today to be the healthcare leaders of tomorrow. We do this in part by creating and fostering interprofessional education and new and innovative care delivery models. And we don't just do this work in silos. As President McCormick said earlier tonight, we are committed to working across disciplines, building on the strengths of both the East and the West campuses. Our nurse scientists work with computer scientists, biomedical engineers, biomedical informaticists, and climate and health environment scientists to find solutions that will improve health for all across Long Island, New York State, and beyond. Haresh, I know that you share this same commitment.
Thank you, Pat, and yes, I do. Good evening. As Dean of the College of Business, every day I'm joined by my colleagues who are committed to help elevate Stony Brook's visibility and academic reputation. Our newly designed strategic plan, Growth with Reputation, positions us as a modern business school that is deeply invested in the success of our students. Often, we have businesses in the news, but not always for the right reasons, which poses the question, how can business be a force for good in society? We believe we can do it by providing business education with purpose. This means developing ethical business leaders who can create a better world through thought leadership and integrity. Just to name a couple of our newly planned initiatives, a Center for Societal Impact, a financial empowerment lab. The emphasis on well-being is our North Star and is integral to business education with purpose at Stony Brook. Our faculty serve in prominent leadership and editorial positions and pursue impactful research with an interdisciplinary focus to address the complex challenges facing businesses today. This spirit of inquiry and exploration translates directly into the classroom, providing experiential learning opportunities for our students, preparing them to be not just skilled technically, but at the same time to have the mindset to be confident but without attitude. In short, we are committed to being a part of Stony Brook's unstoppable momentum. On behalf of Pat and my fellow deans, we want to thank you again for joining us for tonight's program. We now invite you to continue our celebrations during our reception in the lobby, where you will have a chance to meet with tonight's presenters and continue conversations with friends and colleagues. Again, thank you for all you do for Stony Brook. Now let's go and celebrate.